Erev Shabbos. The portion of Haazinu usually gets short shrift because it's wedged right between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, or like last year, it was Shabbat Shuvah. We have a lot of things on our mind. It's a short portion, and it's the end of the whole Torah, except for what we read on Simchas Torah, and we're distracted. Too bad that, because it's an amazing poem that's said to contain the entirety of the Jewish people's history, past, present, and future. You just have to interpret it a little bit. And that gives rise to the question of why it's called a shira at all, a song. Songs are usually of thanksgiving, like the song at the sea or the song of Deborah. This shira could be a song or a poem of joy and thanksgiving. Thing is, the jury is still out. History is not finished yet. We are very much still in the middle of it. There's no mitzvahs in this portion. Those are all done by now. There's no promise of reward or punishment, no carrot, no stick. We're left in this portion to figure it out, to understand better what it is that we're doing here. What is certain in this poem is a number of things. In the reading of Nachmanides, Moshe ben Nachman, the Ramban, not to be confused with the Rambam, Moshe ben Maimon, the Ramban says that the Shira, this song, this portion of Haazinu, expresses the idea that memory, our memory, the Jewish people's memory, will cease from among mankind. Ashbisa me'enosh zichram, it says in verse 26. Really is speaking directly to our situation at this moment in history. Notwithstanding the developments of the last few days, the situation of the Jewish people is at a generational low around the world, losing support, unwelcome, threatened, attacked. We have no renown among the nations. Our credit is spent. They don't consider us to be a people or a religion. The major religions of the West believe they've superseded us, and the nations of the world come to agreement on a regular schedule that we do not even deserve a place to call home, like any other nation almost on this earth. Oh, and by the way, we're at best tolerated guests when push comes to shove. That speaks to the eternal dream of dictators or tyrants or rulers throughout history of wiping the Jewish people off the face of the earth. That's the Astira Panai Mehem verse, I will hide my face from them, where God will conceal God's face, as it were, even God's presence from us. There's a Marc Chagall painting in Chicago that actually depicts this. What is it they resent so much that they put so much energy into threatening us, hoping to do us harm? It's the desire to do away with what we represent, which is everything that we repose in God: justice, accountability, memory, responsibility, just society. Without the idea of conscience and responsibility that Judaism brought into the world, according to Rabbi Sachs, among many others, those evildoers can sleep much better at night. No protesters or editorialists to hound them with morality or justice or any of those other irritating restraints. Someone once summed it up completely. It was to the effect of, they hate us when we can't speak the language well, or when we can't speak the language, when we speak the language too well. They hate us when we're not nationalistic enough. They hate us when we're too nationalistic. They hate us when we live in their lands. They hate us when we live in our land. They hate us when we're poor. They hate us when we're wealthy. They hate us when we're communists. They hate us when we're capitalists. They hate when we don't go to their universities, and they hate us when we do go to their universities. They hate us when we're weak, and they hate us when we're powerful. It's clearly an existential matter, and woe to the Jews who think that by casting off the particularities of Jewish identity, they can earn the love and loyalty of other nations. They do hate us when we show religious affiliation, but there's a special resentment for the assimilating Jew who tries to blend in and become just one of the guys. Perhaps this is why we garner so much space in the newspapers, in the United Nations, and the attention of all the others. They recognize that we're something special. We're not like everyone else. We're not here simply to exist and then move on. They know what we admit in our most enlightened moments, which is that we have something special to accomplish, a unique mission to humankind, a lofty calling to elevate the idea of God and all that brings with it: morality, responsibility, self-restraint, responsible government, tzedakah, egalitarianism. The second aliyah of our Sedra begins, Zachor Yemos Olam, Binu shnois dor vador. Remember the days of old. Understand the years of generation after generation. This is a passage about remembering history. The corollary to that is forgetfulness. If it were not possible to forget, we wouldn't need a mitzvah to remember. There's a famous novel about a protagonist who remembers everything, cannot forget anything that happened to him. Somehow I can't recall the name of this book. But forgetting is actually a God given gift. If we could forget nothing, how could we ever have Rahmanas, be merciful? How could we avoid becoming resentful or bitter towards other people? We are able, thankfully, to forget. However, misusing that ability, as in forgetting what kindnesses others have done for us and that we should be grateful, forgetting that God creates us and sustains us, and for that we should be grateful, that's a misuse of the power of forgetfulness. The Maggid of Dubno used this parable. He said, a fellow who once owed a lot of people money asked his friends for some advice. What do I do? The friend told him, when people come to collect, just act like you're crazy and you don't know what they're talking about. You don't understand what they're saying. You don't remember anything. So this worked for a while, and people after a while left him alone. One day, that same friend came to ask this man for repayment of a loan, and the man put on his crazy act. The friend said, "Hey, it's me, remember? I gave you this advice in the first place. Don't pull that trick with me." Our task is to remember the important things that need remembering and forget the minor and inconsequential things that are going to weigh us down as we go through life. In fact, the fourth verse in this week's portion, Hatzur Tamim Po'alo, the rock perfect in his work. The Yalkut Me'amlois quotes a Gemara in Barachas that you could read Sur, the rock, as Tzayar, the artist. God is the ultimate artist in that sense, creator of a wonderful and beautiful universe. If we're to resemble God, created in God's image as we are, then we should also be artists. The greatest work we can create is to recreate ourselves with a blend, an appropriate blend of remembering and forgetting. As individuals and as a people, we're able, at least in our better moments, to remember the important stuff and let the less important stuff go in the bin. That is how we move forward with hope. We remember how things were, we hope that they can get better, and we're confident that we can have a share in making that world better, as Rabbi Sachs would tell us. In one of his books we read a few years ago, Future Tense, Judaism for the 21st Century, that's where we learned about his thesis of hope being Judaism's gift to the world. May we forget all that should be forgotten, remember all that will inspire us, and move forward into that 21st century with much less tension in the future. That itself should bring us much joy this Yom Tov, this Sukkot holiday, the Chag HaAsif, the holiday of gathering in, or as some call it, the Jewish Thanksgiving. Shabbat Shalom.